Welcome back to Go Okanagan. Joining me now is Sharon, who will tell us a little bit about the history of the O'Keefe House. So tell me about this room that we're in.
The room we're in is now, it's called the ladies' parlor. This was a very special room. It's where the ladies, the Mrs. O'Keefes that lived here and their friends in the area would meet for fancy teas and also to discuss raising money for the community. They did an amazing amount of fundraising for the community, including the first Vernon Hospital. Marianne O'Keefe, Mr. O'Keefe's first wife, white wife, she raised money for the Catholic Church, which was the first Catholic church. But this was an area where they socialized, they played cards, they had fancy teas, and just socialized and had a good time. People loved coming here because the O'Keefes were noted for their hospitality. This was a room children were not allowed to come into, except by invitation when they were all cleaned and dressed up. And it was often to meet company, and then they might be asked to recite a poem or sing a song or do a little performance of some kind to show how well raised the children were and how smart they were. And they really, truly were a clever bunch of children. The whole works, all of the 17 children had lots of talent and skills, and we're a wonderful group of children. As we go down the hall, there's the hallway, we'll come to a room that at one time, originally when they first built the house, was the master bedroom. But when they expanded the house, that became Cornelius's office. And there's a little sitting area and a fireplace. As we move farther down was the big dining room that was added. At one time, when they originally built the house, the first part, the little log house, which was his first home with Marianne, it was attached to the house, but when they expanded the house, that was moved away, and you can see it later on, just down the way, the little log house that Cornelius and Marianne lived with and had 7 children in. It's a tiny little house. So this was a beautiful home for Marianne to finally get into in 1886. Then when we leave the dining room, that's a magnificent room. The dining room, by the way, children were not allowed in there normally. They ate in there on special occasions, all cleaned up, all using their best manners. We go from that room into what they call the breakfast room. And that was the room children ate in, did their homework in, and there's an entrance off the veranda, which was their entrance into the house. And there's a back stairway. That's the entrance, the stairway the children used. They didn't use the front stairway. So a lot of strict rules, a lot of chores for the children. It was an amazing time. But on the other hand, they had 22,000 acres to run around and play when they had free time.
Right, this is a great property.
It is wonderful.
Now, can you tell me what's upstairs?
Upstairs are the bedrooms and a sewing room, and you'll also see a little classroom. Now, why did they have a classroom up there? Well, the last Mrs. Cornelius's third wife, Elizabeth, they had 6 children together. Of the 17 total children, 6 were Elizabeth's children. And when her little boy, her firstborn, Faber, was 7, he contracted spinal meningitis and he died. She became very fearful for other children, so she established a homeschool for a few years, and the other children were taught there. After a few years, they were sent back to the public school. She got over that initial fear, but it was a very traumatic time for her. She had other children that she was looking after, Marianne's younger children, but this was her firstborn, so it was a very traumatic time for her.
Great, well thank you very much for that history,
You're very
Sharon.
welcome. Yeah.
Now we take a look at a family who has received a lot of support from the community.